Are humans divine beings reincarnated on Earth? The mystery of human origins. Welcome back, everyone, to Mind Podcast. Let's journey back billions of years to explore how the Earth and all living things were formed. Some believe that the universe was created over 15 billion years ago from a massive explosion, known as the Big Bang Theory. According to certain religions, the universe was created by a deity. However, this notion lacks a solid foundation, so we cannot accept it as truth. Buddhism, on the other hand, does not acknowledge the existence of a supreme deity responsible for creating everything. According to the Buddha, the earth and all forms of life are the result of numerous factors, conditions, and causes coming together. While this statement may seem simple, it is never wrong. Science, no matter how advanced it becomes, agrees that everything is formed by a combination of various factors and conditions. We are fortunate to have such a sound teaching to reflect on today. Let us explore the origins of humanity, a topic that concerns the origins of our ancient ancestors. This is a topic that has puzzled mankind for ages. Many people have thought about it, researched it, and theorized to find an answer. Today, we have various theories about human origins. 1. The theistic theory. Some believe that the first humans were created by a deity, as described in the scriptures of Judaism. We won't discuss this further. 2. The evolution theory. Another theory posits that humans evolved from apes, as proposed by Charles Robert Darwin, 1809-1882, who studied apes and their evolution. We won't delve into this either. Instead, let's focus on the Buddhist perspective on human origins. This discussion is not intended to critique the other theories, but to present and describe the Buddhist view. Readers are free to judge and interpret based on their own perspectives. Ultimately, the truth is always the truth, regardless of the passage of time or changes in space. Even after billions of years in any part of the world, whether Asia, Africa, Europe, America, or Australia, truth remains unchanging and absolute. Here, I will outline the Buddhist theory of human origins based on the Buddha's insights. The Buddha, using his divine vision, looked back into the infinite past, billions of years, and described what he saw. My writing is merely an interpretation from a layperson's perspective, not the supreme teachings of Buddhism. In the highest teachings of Buddhism, the Tathagata, the Buddha, neither comes nor goes, neither exists in the past, present, or future. The true nature of reality pervades all space, existing everywhere and at all times. There is no distinction between past, present, or future, nor is there any differentiation between one place and another. When the world is destroyed by a great fire, all humans die and are reborn in the Abhisara Brahma realm, which corresponds to the second jhana in the form realm. When the world is destroyed by a great flood, all humans die and are reborn in the Subhakina Brahma realm, corresponding to the third jhana. When the world is destroyed by a great wind, all humans die and are reborn in the Vihafala Brahma realm, corresponding to the fourth jhana. The beings in the Abhisara Brahma realm have a very long lifespan, 8 asankhya's. An asankhya is equivalent to a kalpa, which equals 16.798 million years. This will be explained later when discussing the great calamities. The beings in the Abhisara Brahma realm, when their lifespan and karmic actions are exhausted, die and are reborn in the realm of Mahabrahma, a lower realm than the Brahma realm, corresponding to the first jhana. At that time, the first Brahma being in the Mahabrahma realm thinks to himself, "I am the great Brahma, naturally existent, uncreated by anyone. I can perceive all meanings, am supremely free and marvelous. I was once alone, and by my power, other beings have come into existence. I created these beings because I thought it would be joyful to have other beings born. Subsequently, other beings were born. Because my lifespan is longer than the beings born after me, I am the most superior." Meanwhile, the Brahma beings born later in the Mahabrahma realm think to themselves, "He is the great Brahma, naturally existent, uncreated by anyone. He perceives all meanings, is supremely free, and can create and manifest. He is the greatest and most revered. He lived before us, and only after him did we come into existence. He is truly the one who created us." All beings in the Mahabrahma realm receive their rewards as great Brahmas based on the virtuous karma they have accumulated. They are wondrous, beautiful, majestic, free, and happy, radiating brilliant light. The great Brahma is like a king, surrounded by Brahma beings and Brahma attendants. The lifespan of the great Brahma is 1.5 small kalpas, equivalent to 25.197 million Earth years. The two Brahmas are close attendants of the great Brahma, slightly less powerful than the great Brahma, similar to high-ranking ministers. The Brahmas have a lifespan of 1 small kalpa, equivalent to 16.798 million Earth years. The Brahma attendants who accompany the Brahmas also possess supernatural powers but are not as powerful as the Brahmas. The Brahma attendants have a lifespan of half a small kalpa, or 8.399 million Earth years. When these beings in the Brahma realm exhaust their lifespan and karmic actions, they die and are reborn on Earth, this world. When the sun and planets have stabilized, either newly formed or reformed after being destroyed by one of the 3 great calamities, fire, flood, or wind, these beings are reborn on Earth. Initially, they are reborn through spontaneous birth, not from one being creating another, but from many beings being spontaneously reborn. These beings do not need to be nurtured, educated, or cared for. They can live independently. They consume joy and serenity as their food, meaning they sustain themselves on the joy and tranquility they experience. These beings do not need to eat or drink to survive. They are always healthy and blissful. Their bodies emit light, illuminating their surroundings so they can see clearly both day and night. They possess supernatural abilities, allowing them to move and fly through space with ease and freedom. They live a carefree, leisurely life, free from fatigue and sorrow. At that time, there is no distinction between male and female, as all beings are identical in appearance. All beings are equally beautiful, with no hierarchy, as there is nothing to compete for. There is no aging, no youth, no old age. All beings remain youthful. There are no different names. When they speak, they simply say, I, you, this being, that being, we, you, and so on. The world is filled with beings who are spontaneously born, so they are called beings. These beings live a peaceful, comfortable life without greed, anger, beauty, ugliness, winning, losing, right, wrong, love, hate, hunger, or fullness. In other words, they live without any conflict or suffering, even the smallest disputes that exist today. These beings live in such a beautiful state for a long time, and then naturally, water begins to appear on the earth. Water condenses on the ground, and it has a delicious taste like nectar. These beings, curious about the water, ask each other, "What is this? What is this substance? We have never seen anything like this before. Where did it come from?" They wonder about its taste and scent, so they dip a finger into the water and taste it. They find it delicious and call it water. They praise the water, saying, "This water is so tasty." Other beings, hearing the praise, also taste the water. At first, they find it delicious and develop a craving for it. They continue to dip their fingers into the water and eat it. Gradually, their craving grows and they start scooping up the water with their hands to eat. Seeing this, other beings also start scooping and eating the water. The more they eat, the stronger their craving becomes, and they continue eating without stopping. As time passes, their bodies become heavier and coarser, losing their lightness and the ability to fly. Their bodies lose their radiance and can no longer see in the dark. They begin to lament the loss of their light and the loss of their lightness, but they continue to crave the taste of the water and keep scooping it up to eat. After a long time, the water naturally disappears, seeping into the ground, evaporating, and leaving only dry earth. The beings try to dig up the earth in search of the water, but find only soft, muddy soil. They taste the soil and find it delicious. They call it earth flavor. Other beings, seeing this, also begin to scoop up and eat the earth. Those who eat more earth become uglier, while those who eat less remain more beautiful. At this point, beings start to discriminate based on appearance, saying, "I am beautiful," or "You are ugly." The beings live like this for some time, and then the earth hardens, losing its softness. They begin to lament, saying, "Woe is us! Woe is us! This is a disaster. Why has the earth's flavor suddenly disappeared?" This situation is similar to people today who have plenty of delicious food and say, "This is so delicious." But when the food is gone, they feel regret and sadness. These beings, missing the earth's flavor, also feel sad and begin to experience sorrow. When the earth hardens, a thin crust forms on its surface, similar to a modern-day cake. Just like today, whenever there is a major flood, the muddy water mixes with the soil and spreads across the fields. After the floodwaters recede and the water evaporates, the soil becomes dry and the fields crack. There remains a thin layer of soil on the surface that lacks the taste of the earth, and the beings began to scrape off this layer to eat, calling it earth crust. Gradually, they started to feel that the earth crust had some flavor as they tasted it. Among them, those who ate more became uglier, while those who ate less retained their beauty. The beings began to argue more about appearance. Some would say, "I am more beautiful than you." Others would say, "You are uglier than me." Some beings would compare themselves, saying, "This being is more beautiful than that one." Later on, a type of fungus began to grow from the earth. The fungus had a beautiful, soft appearance. The beings, seeing this strange new thing, wondered aloud, "What is this? What is this thing? This looks so strange. I have never seen anything like it before. What could it be?" They touched it and found it soft. Then they pulled up the fungus and tasted it. They found it delicious, sweet, and fragrant, even tastier than the earth crust. They named it earth fungus because it grew from the ground. They told the other beings about it, and the others followed suit. From that time on, they stopped eating earth crust and began eating the earth fungus together. Among them, those who ate more of the fungus became even uglier, while those who ate less retained their beauty. The beings started to differentiate and argue even more about beauty and ugliness. Some would say, "Your beauty is inferior to mine." Others would say, "I am beautiful, you are ugly. My beauty is better than yours." Some would exclaim, "You are much uglier than I am. Why are you so ugly?" Others would say, "This being is beautiful, that one is ugly. Why is that so?" The being's sense of superiority and competition grew stronger. They lived this way for a long time until naturally the earth fungus began to decrease. The beings noticed that the fungus was becoming scarce and gathered to lament together. One being asked, "Why don't I see as much earth fungus as before?" The other beings replied, "I don't know why." Another being suggested, "Now we have to go far to find earth fungus to eat." Many beings said, "Woe is us. This is a disaster for us. Why is the earth fungus becoming less and less?" So they banded together to search for earth fungus far and wide. While the earth fungus was diminishing, and the beings were worried about not having enough to eat, certain types of grain-bearing plants, like rice, wheat, barley, and so on, began to appear. The beings were astonished to see these grain plants and didn't know where they came from. These plants produced many seeds without hard shells. The beings tried eating the seeds and found them tasty, with a pleasant, nutty flavor and a fragrant aroma. They started eating these seeds and encouraged each other to do the same. From this event, the names rice, wheat, barley, and so on came into being. From that time, the beings began to gather the seeds to eat together. They ate the seeds for a short while, and their bodies became coarser and more developed. It was at this point that the beings started to have different body forms, which led to the terms male beings and female beings. Humanity began to take shape clearly and develop from there. The male beings were curious about the different forms of the female beings, and the female beings were curious about the different forms of the male beings. The beings of one gender enjoyed looking at the beings of the other gender, and they looked at each other without growing tired. They stared at each other continuously. And then the beings of one gender began to develop a fondness and attraction toward the other gender, desiring to be close to one another. They enjoyed gazing at each other, becoming attached to appearances, caressing each other, and becoming attached to the sensation of touch. They also started enjoying talking to each other, becoming attached to sounds, and praising one another. The thoughts and ideas of sexual desire arose, and from there, lust was born. The male and female beings sought out secluded or open places where no other beings were present so that they could freely look at, talk to, embrace, caress, and engage in impure acts, making love. Other beings witnessing this asked, "Oh, this is wrong. Why are this male being and that female being engaging in such vile sexual acts?" Thus, the terms for embracing, caressing sexual intercourse, and making love began to be used. The male beings who engaged in these impure sexual acts felt remorse when they were scolded by others and said, "My actions were wrong. I have done something shameful. I deserve to be criticized. Immediately, these male beings would throw themselves to the ground, refusing to stand up again. Seeing this, the female beings became worried and, fearing that the male beings would starve, went to gather seeds to feed them. When other beings noticed this, they asked, "Where are you taking that food?" The female beings replied, "The male beings, feeling remorse for their impure actions, have thrown themselves to the ground and refused to get up. I fear they will go hungry, so I am bringing them food." From that time on, the beings had fully developed the 5 desires, or the 5 sensual pleasures: sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. Over time, the beings became more and more attached to sexual desire and sought to hide their actions from the gaze of others. They began to seek out secluded places such as caves or hills, or they created private, enclosed spaces. Because of this, terms like hiding place, secluded spot, private space, dwelling, hut, and house came into use. The beings who lived together and engaged in sexual acts were referred to as partners, husband and wife. From that point on, other beings from the Brahma realms, whose lives had ended due to the exhaustion of their lifespan, their virtuous actions, or their merits, died there and were reborn in this world. However, they were no longer born through spontaneous generation, but rather through the wombs of female beings. This led to the use of terms such as pregnancy, conception, fetus, childbirth, son, and daughter. From then on, people began to name their children at birth, and when a man and woman lived together and had children, they formed a family. It is also noteworthy that since the appearance of the grain-bearing plants with soft shells, the beings had been gathering these seeds to eat. When the seeds were taken, others would grow in their place. If they gathered in the morning, new seeds would appear by the evening. If they gathered in the evening, new seeds would appear by the next morning. Because of this, they could gather and eat continuously without running out of food. They lived this way for quite a long time, very comfortably. Suddenly, one being thought to themselves, "It's too much effort to gather seeds every day. I should gather twice as much to last for 2 days." After thinking this, the being went and gathered enough seeds for 2 days. From this point, the desire for more began to arise. When another being came to invite them to gather seeds, this being replied, "I have already gathered enough seeds for 2 days, so I don't need to go. You can go if you want." Hearing this, the other being thought, "This being has gathered seeds for 2 days. Why don't I gather seeds for 3 days?" With that thought, they went and gathered enough seeds for 3 days. Similarly, another being approached and said, "Let's go gather food and seeds to eat." But the being replied, "I have already gathered enough food for 3 days. You can go if you want." Upon hearing this, the other being thought, "You have gathered enough for 3 days. I will gather even more. I will gather enough for several days." So, they went and gathered seeds for many days. All the beings began competing to gather more seeds, and as time went on, they continued to increase their efforts. Naturally, the seeds began to grow hard shells and husks, which made them inedible until the shells were removed. Once the seeds were gathered, the plants no longer produced more seeds. At the same time, various grasses and weeds began to appear and spread everywhere. The beings, seeing this, lamented to each other, holding their bellies and saying, "Woe is us! This is a disaster. What should we do now?" We were once beings that originated from spontaneous generation, not requiring food or drink. We found joy and satisfaction in freely roaming and engaging in leisure activities. Our bodies emitted light, allowing us to see everything clearly, both day and night, as we were surrounded by a radiant aura. We also had the ability to fly effortlessly through the sky, experiencing boundless joy and freedom, endowed with supernatural powers. Then, when water appeared like nectar, we became curious and wanted to know what it was. We initiated the first thought and used our fingers to dip into it. After tasting it, we initiated a second thought, then a third, as we experienced a unique and pleasant flavor, becoming attached to the taste. We began to enjoy it more and more, continually indulging in it, and our desire grew stronger. Gradually, we started using our hands to scoop up more of it to consume. With the rise of greed, we continued to eat endlessly, and as a result, our bodies became less soft, more coarse, and heavy due to the water within us, rendering us unable to fly in the sky any longer. Over time, the nectar-like water gradually disappeared, and we had to consume the essence of the earth to satisfy our need for sustenance. When the essence of the earth was no longer available, we began eating the crust of the earth. Later, mushrooms with a fragrant aroma and sweet taste appeared, and we ate these mushrooms, becoming attached to their flavor. As we passed through each phase, our bodies grew increasingly coarse and unsightly. Our minds became more competitive, comparing physical appearances, though in reality, our appearances were becoming less attractive over time. When the grain-bearing plants appeared, we began to eat the grains without needing to do anything to obtain them. After we harvested the grains, new grains would grow. If we harvested in the morning, new grains would ripen by the evening. If we harvested in the evening, fresh grains would be ready to pick the next morning. Due to our competition to hoard the grains, greed began to arise within us. As a result, the grains we harvested no longer regenerated. Even worse, the grains that did grow had husks and chaff, making them inedible until the husks were removed. We gathered to discuss these difficulties and agreed that we needed to find a way to remove the husks and cultivate our own crops for food. They decided to divide the land into plots so each person could cultivate their own portion. Thus, the concepts of fields and farming emerged, along with the ideas of mine and yours. They began planting, caring for their crops, and harvesting the grains for food. Life stabilized for a while, and they lived peacefully. However, some people developed deceitful intentions. With these deceitful intentions, they hid their own grains and stole from others. Deception and theft began from this point. Those who were stolen from confronted the thieves, saying, "You are wrong, you have done something bad. Why did you hide your own grains and then take my food? You must stop stealing." From this, the terms hoarding, deception, and theft became common. But the deceitful people continued their bad deeds as before. They stole again, and when caught, those who were stolen from would scold them, saying, "You are doing wrong. Why don't you stop stealing?" They would then strike the thief and drag them to a place where many people were present, loudly proclaiming, "This person has hidden their own food and stolen from me 2 or 3 times." The thief would respond, "This person hit me multiple times on the back with their hand. They have hurt me." Upon hearing this, others would feel sorrowful and shake their heads, saying, "This world is becoming increasingly wicked. Could this be the beginning of evil?" From this, the terms dragging, beating, wickedness, and so on emerged. People began to feel sorrow about one thing after another, and this sorrow accumulated, creating the karma of suffering. Suffering and sorrow are the roots of birth, aging, sickness, death, and the unwholesome actions that lead to rebirth in the realms of evil. As the land was divided, separate living spaces were created, and as people became greedy, hoarding their own belongings and stealing food from others, disputes, slander, and arguments arose. These conflicts escalated into physical fights and even attempts to kill one another. Such bad deeds occurred more frequently as time passed, and people could not resolve these issues on their own. They discussed and agreed that they needed someone capable of overseeing and adjudicating all the disputes that arose among them. At that time, among the beings, there was a person who was large and strong, with a dignified appearance, who spoke reasonably and justly, and who commanded great respect and virtue. The people saw this and approached him, saying, "As you know, many unfortunate things happen every day. We see that you are a good person, strong and capable enough to oversee and adjudicate the matters that arise. We wish to elevate you to the position of overseer, to judge fairly, praise those who do good deeds, and punish those who do wrong. Please assist us well," they said. "Each of us will contribute some provisions to offer you." Upon hearing this, the person found the idea agreeable and accepted the role of overseeing and judging. From that moment on, the title of overseer, guardian of order, and representative of the people came into existence. As time passed, the responsibilities grew, necessitating the help of others. Those in charge of overseeing and judging were organized into groups with a leader in command. Thus, new terms like leader, chief, ruler, lord, and king began to be used. In summary, the first humans on this earth originated from the Brahma realm and were born through spontaneous generation, meaning they were not born from a womb or created by any deity, but rather, they passed away from the Brahma realm and were reborn here through spontaneous generation. The newly generated beings did not need anyone to nurture or care for them, as they could live independently. Although they were newly born, they did not need food and drink like infants today. Moreover, there was not just one being born through spontaneous generation, but many beings were generated simultaneously. However, some were born earlier and others later, depending on their karma, merit, and lifespan in the Brahma realm before passing away and being reborn here. Because everyone was born in this way, there were no parents to name them, so they all shared a common name: beings. Although it doesn't describe their appearance in detail, it's likely that these first beings had crystal clear, soft, and light bodies that emitted light, allowing them to move about easily. As they consumed water, their bodies gradually became inflated, like being pumped with water and turning into balloons. These beings became coarse and heavy, unable to fly but still maintained a certain beauty. When they started eating mud, earth, and eventually earth mushrooms, their bodies took on the color of mud and earth, becoming unsightly. It was only when they began consuming grains that their bodies truly developed, and the structures of their bodies evolved. These first beings lived from the time the earth was first formed or reformed, surviving from their initial generation on earth until they died, with an average lifespan of about 84,000 years. They lived for a very long time, far longer than the legendary figure Peng Zhu, who was said to have lived for only about 800 years. Some people might find it hard to believe that the first humans on Earth lived such long lives. Those who do not believe are like a person born blind, unable to perceive the different colors. When someone explains the differences between white, green, yellow, red, black, purple, brown, etc., the blind person cannot imagine the distinctions between colors and might say, "How can such colors exist? How many millions of years have passed since the first humans appeared on Earth, from the time the Earth was formed or reformed?" This will be discussed in the commentary section at the end of this topic. It has been discovered that ancient architectural structures existed on the ocean floor long ago. Recently, with human advancements, scientists have discovered fossilized skeletons buried in the ground of creatures similar to crocodiles, called supercroc, which French paleontologists named Sarcosuchus imperator. These creatures had legs 3 meters long, but lived on land, dating back 110 million years. They lived simultaneously with dinosaurs and titanosauruses. Scientists also believe that South America separated from Africa about 70 million years ago, because they found fossilized crocodile skeletons of the same species in Patagonia, Argentina, and Madagascar, Africa. However, even further back, German scientists discovered fossilized horseshoe crab shells dating back 330 million years. Thus, the trace of the past by scientists is still not entirely clear. Over time, human lifespan decreased, with periods of increase and periods of decrease. Now, the average human lifespan is very short, about 75 years. In Buddhist history, it is the year 2629, and according to the Gregorian calendar, it is the year 2006. Human lifespan depends on people's thoughts and actions. This doesn't mean that merely wishing to live long will make it so, but rather, it is determined by whether one thinks and acts truthfully and morally, or with deceit, manipulation, and cruelty. Thought is the root of action. Thought involves the mind and brain, while action involves the body, head, hands, and other parts. Body and speech, mouth and mind, thoughts are enacted by the body and mouth, so we say that thought, body, and action make up most human karma. This collective karma guides the average human lifespan. Individual karma, however, guides each person specifically. For instance, today, some people live to 90 years old, while others only live to 50. Thoughts driven by greed, anger, and delusion lead to actions through speech and body, resulting in the karmic consequences of suffering, such as birth, aging, sickness, and death, and rebirth in the 6 realms. Karmic retribution binds humans to the 6 paths, which are the realms of gods, humans, asuras, hungry ghosts, animals, and hell. Humans are thus born, age, fall ill, and die, continuously rising and falling according to their thoughts and actions. The good or bad deeds of each person create karma, and this karma follows them like a shadow, inescapable, except for those who have attained enlightenment through spiritual practice and have thus escaped the cycle of reincarnation. Reflecting on this, we notice that there is no mention of when exactly plants and vegetation began to appear on Earth. It is said that grass emerged at the same time as the trees that produced seeds with husks, suggesting that other types of plants likely appeared gradually after that. As for animals, there is no explicit mention, but it is observed that as humans began creating karma, leading to suffering, disease, and death, they were then reborn into the 6 different realms according to their actions. Consequently, animals gradually appeared on Earth over time. As for how the first creatures of each species came into existence, the text does not provide a detailed account. However, it is known that in nature, there are 4 types of birth. Spontaneous generation, being born suddenly, without any gestation period, which is typical for beings like celestial deities, asuras, hungry ghosts, and the first humans as described earlier. Transformation, where one species evolves into another, such as caterpillars turning into butterflies, which symbolize those who are fickle and change their minds easily. Egg birth, encompassing beings born from eggs, including birds like chickens, reptiles like turtles and snakes, and aquatic animals like fish, representing those who were deceitful and cunning in their previous lives. And womb birth, which includes humans and mammals, where those who were morally upright in their past lives are reborn as humans, while those with immoral tendencies are reborn as animals. Another type of birth is moisture-born beings, which includes insects, mosquitoes, bacteria, and worms that thrive in damp conditions, representing those who indulged in meat, alcohol, and violence in their previous lives. According to Buddhism and Science on page 167, all these types of births are interconnected through the karma of sentient beings. For instance, egg-born beings are linked to chaotic thoughts, womb-born beings to emotional attachment, moisture-born beings to environmental conditions, and spontaneously generated beings to their previous life's merits. The book, Sudden Enlightenment into the Essential Gate of Dharma, translated by Venerable Thich Tu in 1974, further explains that ignorance is akin to egg birth, withering and craving represent womb birth, the water of desire symbolizes moisture birth, and sudden arousal of defilements corresponds to spontaneous generation. From this, it is evident that humans appeared on Earth before plants and animals. However, the question of whether the first egg-born and womb-born creatures came first, or whether the chicken, bird, or turtle came before the egg, remains unanswered. It is possible that the first creatures were also born through spontaneous generation, even if they were womb-born. Regarding the origins of human races, there is no clear explanation, but we observe that the world today consists of hundreds of nations, each with its own languages. Even within a single country, there are many different dialects. The first groups of beings to be spontaneously generated on this earth likely settled in different regions, which led to the development of different languages. Additionally, there are people of various skin colors, white, yellow, and black. A humorous explanation is that when the Creator first molded humans, he placed 2 figures, one male and one female, into a kiln. However, he fell asleep and didn't remove them in time, resulting in them being overcooked and turning black. Displeased, he created another pair, but this time removed them too early, making them pale and white. Finally, he carefully watched over the process, resulting in a pair with a perfect golden hue, not too dark or too light, which pleased him greatly. This humorous tale explains why there are black, white, and yellow races on Earth today. In reality, geographical factors likely influence skin color. The first humans endured harsh conditions with exposure to intense sun and rain, leading to darker skin in those living near the equator, such as in Africa, India, and South America, while those in polar regions with limited sun exposure developed lighter skin. Additionally, the first beings were not born in a single location, but appeared in different parts of the earth. Some beings might have come from different worlds and realms, explaining the differences among human races today. Initially, humans did not have fire, so they ate raw food and lived in primitive shelters made of straw and grass. They used their hands instead of utensils and wore clothing made of leaves and grass. Over time, humans discovered and invented many things to improve their lives materially. However, despite knowing the importance of ethics and spirituality, Most people only maintain a superficial appearance of morality, while their true intentions are often selfish and deceitful. As humans became more cunning and malicious, their karma deepened, leading to further suffering. According to The Path to Enlightenment by Venerable Thich Nhat Hanh, as human lifespan decreased from 40,000 years to the present average of 75 years, there were periods of increase and decrease. In the future, human lifespan is predicted to decrease further, with some periods when it will stabilize at 10 years. The longevity of individuals is influenced by their thoughts and actions, not by a mere desire to live longer. Thoughts, speech, and actions create karma, which in turn determines the lifespan and the cycle of birth, aging, sickness, and death, as well as rebirth in the 6 realms of existence. 80,000 years is considered the maximum lifespan used to calculate a eon and a great eon. However, the precise maximum lifespan of humans is still uncertain. Nonetheless, in this text, the writer uses the figure of 84,000 years as the maximum lifespan, as mentioned in the book Dung Ve Benjak, to calculate the duration of a kip and a dai kip. If future discoveries reveal that the maximum human lifespan differs from this figure, then the number of years in a kip, Trung kip, and dai kip would need to be adjusted accordingly. Is human lifespan really decreasing? Today, science is advancing, including the field of medicine, as everyone can see. Yet, Buddhism states that we are in a period where human lifespan is gradually decreasing, eventually reaching just 10 years. Is this true? It is difficult to answer definitively, but we know that during the Buddha's time, the average lifespan was 100 years. Now, 25 centuries later, with each century decreasing by 1 year, we are down to 75 years. Most would agree that the current average human lifespan is around 75 years, as there were people who lived to 120, 130, or even 140 years old during the Buddha's time, but such longevity is rare today. Even now, with an average lifespan of 75 years, some people live beyond 100 years. When the average lifespan drops to 50 years, some may still live to 70 or 80 years. When it drops to 25 years, some may live to 40 or 50 years, and so on. Despite scientific advancements, these very advancements contribute to environmental pollution and the degradation of our living conditions. Refrigeration and air conditioning systems gradually deplete the ozone layer that protects Earth. Factories and vehicles emit toxic fumes that damage human lungs. Chemicals released during manufacturing pollute rivers and spread across the globe, affecting the health of humans, animals, and plants. Fish and animals that ingest these pollutants, along with crops, are then consumed by humans, leading to illness. Nuclear reactors release radiation into the environment. Therefore, many so-called advancements intended to serve humanity are actually harmful to human longevity, not to mention the increasing frequency of accidents, natural disasters, and wars, especially nuclear wars, which could result in more deaths among the younger population, further reducing average lifespan. While science has made significant progress, can modern medicine truly cope with the disasters brought on by scientific advancements? Every day, new diseases emerge, possibly due to the factors mentioned above, and we cannot predict them. Humanity is becoming increasingly deceitful, malicious, and cruel, taking pleasure in killing and bullying the weak. For example, when negotiations for benefits fail, people may resort to schemes and false accusations, banding together to eliminate their enemies, regardless of the bloodshed and destruction, all while maintaining a sense of enjoyment. How can lifespan not decrease under such circumstances? Dear readers, scientists occasionally make new discoveries related to the origins of humans, animals, and plants. However, these findings are often not definitive, and sometimes the latest discoveries contradict previous ones, especially the numbers they present, leaving readers confused. Some people compare scientists to blind men trying to describe an elephant, only grasping part of the truth. While this may seem overly harsh, they have managed to demonstrate, through scientific experimentation, some of the principles that the Buddha taught long ago, such as the existence of tiny organisms in water, the infinite universe, and the countless worlds, more numerous than the grains of sand in the Ganges River.